When I was 4, I desperately wanted to be a storm chaser. I was obsessed with the movie Twister and fantasized about riding around in the pouring rain and recording myself in the most daring situations. My parents spent a solid year trying to convince me to pick a safer and more promising career path. To their satisfaction, I eventually ditched the idea of chasing after some of the most dangerous storms. Hurricanes are one of the most powerful and incredible types of storms. On average, 10 tropical storms develop each year, and about 6 of those will grow to become hurricanes. A large percentage of the hurricanes that develop never reach land. However, about 5 hurricanes strike the United States every 3 years. Having lived in Florida my entire life, I have lived through my fair share of hurricanes. In just the year 2005 alone, 15 hurricanes developed, making it the busiest and most destructive year to date. It was then that Florida public schools began adding hurricane days to their school calendars to prepare for school closings during the hurricane season. I bet most of you don't exactly jump for joy at the mention of a potential hurricane threat. I know I don't. I am also certain I am not the only one to have experienced a hurricane or witnessed the destruction and devastation that usually follows. However, it is important to understand hurricanes and to be informed of their danger. I hope to offer a glimpse into the powerful forces behind a hurricane, as well as information on what to expect when faced with the threat of a potential storm. I also aim to provide guidelines to help keep you and your family safe throughout the hurricane season. Now, to answer the most important question: what exactly is a hurricane? A hurricane is a type of tropical storm that can form over the Atlantic, Caribbean Sea, Gulf of Mexico, or the Pacific Ocean. These storms are assigned to categories 1 through 5 depending on their wind speed. Hurricane winds in the northern hemisphere circulate in a counterclockwise motion around the hurricane's center, called the eye. The eye of the hurricane is generally 20 to 30 miles wide, while the hurricane itself may exceed outward 400 miles. The most violent activity takes place in the area immediately around the eye, called the eye wall. Air is propelled outward at the top of the eye wall, which can reach up to 50,000 feet high. Since 1979, both male and female names have been used to identify hurricanes in the Atlantic Ocean. The use of short and distinctive names replaced the old latitude-longitude identification methods. Names are now used and reused on a 6-year rotation unless a storm is so deadly or costly that the future use of its name would be inappropriate. An indicator as to when hurricane season begins is the increased media attention broadcasting the season's forecasted named storms. Conditions are most favorable for the formation of hurricanes in the Atlantic Ocean beginning in June and lasting until the end of November. The Eastern Pacific Ocean's hurricane season begins in mid-May and also ends in November. So how does a hurricane evolve from a simple storm created in the ocean waters to a powerful hurricane that is tracked, forecasted, and feared by many? Once certain conditions are met, hurricanes can leave both a lasting physical and economical impact on whatever crosses its path. 3 conditions must be met before a hurricane is formed. First, the ocean surface waters must be warm enough to admit heat and moisture into the overlying atmosphere. Then the atmospheric moisture must combine with the heat and energy to become the hurricane's fuel. Finally, an inward spiral wind pattern must be present that causes bands of thunderstorms to form, creating a hurricane. A hurricane is considered to be one of the most damaging and deadly natural disasters. When hurricanes reach landfall, high wind speeds, tornadoes, torrential rains, flooding, and storm surges of ocean water usually occur. Hurricanes and their potential for destruction are categorically rated. Category 1 hurricanes are the least destructive, and Category 5s are the most. According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, 587 U.S. residents have died in hurricanes over the last 30 years. It is estimated that hurricanes impose almost $6 million in total costs annually. These costs include property damage, adverse effects on natural resources, medical costs, and the cost to repair damaged structures. Researchers at the NOAA suggest that the frequency and strength of hurricanes have increased in recent years and are being projected to continue to increase. That is why it is so important to be prepared for a hurricane, plan an evacuation route if needed, and have an emergency supply kit in your home. It is important to know that any hurricane is dangerous, no matter which category it belongs to. Many media outlets, as well as home improvement stores, offer advice on how to effectively storm-proof your home. Be sure to cover windows with plywood or storm shutters and reinforce doors and outer walls with sandbags to prevent water and structural damage. Due to the danger of hurricanes, evacuating should always be an option. Local authorities in a predicted hurricane path often recommend or order evacuation of designated flood zones. However, some residents refuse to leave their home because of monetary costs or for fear of deserting their possessions. If you decide not to evacuate, you should carefully monitor for updates provided by the local media. The American Red Cross recommends each household set aside enough supplies necessary to survive for 1 to 2 weeks after a hurricane hits. Pre-assembled kits are available, but one could also develop their own. Make sure your kit includes at least 1 gallon of water per person per day, non-perishable foods, a first aid kit, flashlights, batteries, and a radio. Your number one priority during hurricane season should be the safety of your family. Never underestimate the strength or power behind a hurricane. You should always be aware of the physical and economical impacts a hurricane can cause. Always stay up to date on storm updates and make sure to follow the safety guidelines and suggestions of your local authorities to ensure that you and your family stay safe. Florida has most recently ended a record 8 seasons without a hurricane strike. Between 2006 and 2013, no hurricanes made their way onto Florida's coastline. According to FEMA, since the year 1851, the U.S. coastline has suffered 290 hurricane strikes, averaging about 2 hurricane strikes per year. I, for one, am glad I abandoned my childhood storm-chasing dreams years ago. However, I am thankful for the thousands of members of the storm-chasing community who courageously chase after some of the most dangerous storms. Without them, we would not understand as much as we do about hurricanes and other severe storms, or know how to keep our families safe.